Okay, welcome everybody to lesson 8 for 2023 to 2024 session for Education for Nepal English group. This is probably going to be our last lesson or maybe second last lesson for 2023 because next year we'll be going to 2024. This is our YouTube channel. You can click on it to watch previous videos. And today we'll be teaching computer science and then pop culture and then finishing with astronomy. Okay, so first is computer science, and today we'll be focusing on strings. So, as I've stated before, I think from a previous lesson when we did variables, strings are a special type of data type. It's not one of the 8 primitive data types because strings didn't originally exist. Like when programming was first a thing, there was like no strings. What people actually had to do when they wanted to make a word or a sentence is that they had to make an array of characters, right? They basically had to take all the characters that they wanted and piece them together to make a word or sentence. Nowadays with string, it's a lot more convenient and you can just say string greeting equals hello. Before, like, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago or something, or maybe longer than that, you had to take each individual letter, like H, E, L, L, and O, and put them all together to make hello, which is a lot more complicated. So strings have like a lot of methods. There's probably like, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 methods. And they're all pretty useful, but I'll mostly be going over the commonly used ones that are like super useful, I guess. And so some examples of string methods include char at, contains, ends with, equals, and then etc. So these methods are built in, which means they're like probably created by somebody else. And so you don't have to like write any code yourself. You just have to you can just use the method for free essentially. So this is just also another thing that's very convenient because if I wanted to use one of these functions, like, but they didn't, no one else, like someone else didn't write it for me, like if it wasn't built in, then I would have to write it myself in my code, which just means I have to write a bunch of extra code in order to use a simple function. But with these built-in functions, I can just call upon one of them without having to actually write the method myself. And as always, all of these methods are used as the name of your string and then dot function, like the name of the function with parentheses. So the first function we'll do is dot length. This is like probably the most commonly used string function. Like I feel like people would use it very commonly because it's really useful. So this one is simple, right? It returns the length of the string. Now, something as simple as this, you might take for granted, but you have to realize that if the dot length function didn't exist, you would probably have to spend like 10 lines of code to write it out yourself. You have to probably run a for loop and have a variable counting how much letters are in your string. And that's like painful to do, right? So instead, I can just write the name of my string, greeting dot length, and it gives me 5. I didn't have to write any additional code. So it's just very convenient. Another function is dot equals. This one is a weird function because in Java, you're not allowed to compare strings using the double equal sign, right? Like I have here saying normal comparison of variables is double equals, right? Like normally if you want to compare two numbers or two Boolean values, you can use equal equal, and that would allow us to compare whether or not this variable x equals variable y, right? But for strings, we can't do that. For strings, we have to use the dot equals function in order to check if the two strings contain the exact same sentence or word. Okay, next we have index of. This one helps us find like where a letter or phrase is inside the string. So for example, if we're trying to find the H inside greeting, right? We would do greeting dot index of H, and then that would return zero because H is the first letter, and this is zero indexed, which means we start from zero. So index of has another issue, which is that it only returns like the position of the first time the letter appears. So in hello, we have two L's, right? It's HELLO with two L's. But if we do greeting dot index of L, it will only return the position of the first L, which is two, right? Because it's the third letter and we're starting from zero. So it's zero, one, two, it returns two. But if we wanted the position of the second L, we can't use dot index of because we wouldn't be able to get the second L. Okay, finally, our last function that I'm going to go over is empty. This is a really simple function. This one just returns a Boolean value of true or false based on whether or not your string has any characters in it, essentially. Okay, I have some questions here, kind of simple, but whatever. Okay, the first question is string one of the eight primitive data types? And can you name any of the eight primitive data types? So either unmute yourself to answer or just type it in the chat. So the first one's a yes or no question. Is string one of the eight primitive data types? I'd like to see some people say yes or no. Guys, we covered this in the first slide. Is string one of the eight primitive data types? Yes or no? Okay, we have one answer. Does anyone else have an answer to this question? Okay, so we have one answer from Anish. Thank you for answering the question. But you said yes, but the answer is actually no. Because if you look back in the first slide, I stated here that string is a special type of data type. It's not actually one of the eight primitive data types. The eight primitive data types were int, float, long, short, bool, char. I think I'm blanking. Maybe it was six one. Whatever. Next question. What is string actually made of? Or either unmute your mic to answer or just type in the chat, but please answer the question. Come on, guys. What is a string made of? We have one answer from animal and one answer. Okay. Thank you guys for answering. But yeah, the answer is characters, which animal kind of got correct. Yeah. So you guys are answering a string is made of five characters. It's not specifically five characters. It's just made up of characters in general. But yeah, you guys are kind of correct. So I was asking just what is a string made up of in general? Maybe my question was not good enough. But yeah, a string in general is just made up of characters. And last question, can anyone name one string function? Yeah, one answer, Manish, with empty. That's correct. Specifically, it's more is empty, but yeah, you're more or less correct. Can anybody else name any other functions? No, if you guys can't name any more functions, then we'll just move on. But thank you to all those who participated. So next we'll be doing pop culture, and because Christmas is coming up next week, we'll be doing Christmas themed slides.
All right. For Christmas, it's a very popular festival celebrated by billions around the world on December 25th. It's both religious and cultural, but it originates from Christianity, but nowadays a lot of non-Christians also celebrate the holiday. Okay, the origins, it's like Christians to celebrate the birth of their Lord and Jesus Christ. It's celebrated on 25th. The reason it's celebrated on the December 25th is obviously it's not really known for sure, but I think it's probably because it corresponds with the winter solstice in the Roman calendar. All right, so for the traditions, people celebrate Christmas and by usually by just giving gifts, watching Christmas movies, and listening to Christmas songs. They are a lot of people put up decorations like a Christmas tree in their house, wreaths, stockings, lights, and mistletoe. And of course, Santa Claus, very popular figure that item symbolizes Christmas. Gives gifts to children. All right, for our question, which important person was born on Christmas? Jesus Christ. Yep, that's correct. All right, what day is Christmas celebrated on every year? 25th of December. Yep, that's correct. And what is one way that you can celebrate Christmas, or many people around the world celebrates Christmas? Giving gifts. Yep, that's one of them. Okay. Um, Greeting each other. Yeah, I guess so. Okay, now next topic, astronomy, which we're going to be talking about quasars and blazars. So first, I'll start off with active galactic nuclei, which are kind of like the regions where quasars and blazars are. So these are basically very compact regions in the center of galaxies, which emit really high amounts of energy all across the electromagnetic spectrum, which includes both visible and invisible light. They're pretty much the brightest objects in the universe, and they usually contain a supermassive black hole. So next, well, relativistic jets, they're usually a phenomenon. They are a phenomenon where ionized matter is emitted as long beams. They usually accelerate to be close to the speed of light, and the largest and most active jets come from active galactic nuclei, like um, quasars and blazars. And they're also massive, usually spanning hundreds of light years across. Next, we have the accretion disk. These are ring-shaped structures around any sort of massive galactic object like active galactic nuclei or stars. They are made of gas particles and dust, which are sucked in by the powerful gravitational force of the object. And these are actually what causes many black holes to be surprisingly the brightest objects in the universe, because the friction between particles heats up the particles and causes them to radiate a lot of light. Okay, now for the quasars and blazars. So these are both active galactic nuclei. Both of them have relativistic jets, though the main difference between them are that with blazars, the jet is directed towards us, while in quasars, the jets are directed in any other direction. They're both incredibly luminous, or bright, which is due to the accretion disk, but blazars are usually much brighter because the relativistic jets, are usually directed towards us. Obviously, very bright. Yep, that's about it for astronomy today.
Okay, thank you all for coming. Uh, yeah, if you guys don't have any more questions, then please fill out the feedback form, and then you guys can